Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Group. I'm your host, as always, Ryan, and today we are going to be taking a look at the greatest tournament in professional wrestling. That's right, the AEW Continental Classic has returned. It starts tonight. We have 6 members from the Gold League and 6 members from the Blue League. They've all been announced. We're going to have a little look at them now, and we're going to have a look at the 3 matches that have been announced tonight for Dynamite. So we have 6 in the Gold League, 6 in the Blue League. The winners eventually from each league will then face each other for Kazuchika Okada's Continental Championship. So let me know in the comments section who you think is going to be A, in the final, and B, the winner of this year's Continental Classic, and will then pick up the Continental Championship. Or will Kazuchika Okada retain? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, and of course, the most important one, subscribe to the Wrestling Group today. So we'll start in at the Gold League, and we'll start with the reigning and defending Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada, who of course went into last year's Continental Classic as the champion and ended up retaining. He kept his title and he's looking to do it again. They are saying he is the greatest tournament wrestler in the history of professional wrestling. And let's face it, who can argue? You know, he's definitely got to be one of the favourites, if not the favourite from the Gold League. And another Don Callis, a family member, is announced in the Gold League, and it is, of course, the protostar, Kyle Fletcher. He's had a phenomenal 2025, picking up the TNT Championship and having a great run with that. He's just lost the TNT Championship against Mark Briscoe at the weekend, and he was not too impressed that neither Okada or Takeshita could get on the same page and would have his back. So he announced himself going into this because he wants a championship again. So it makes it more interesting that we have Okada versus Kyle Fletcher. And the fact that it's the first night as well, we are opening with an absolute banger. It could well potentially be match of the tournament already in night 1. And so we'll have a look at that in a bit more in detail in a minute. Up next, we have Darby Allin, who, of course, has been in a Continental Classic before. He was in last year's. He announced himself as in last year's to face off against none other than the Death Riders. He was in a story in a feud with the Death Riders last year and wanted to go in, obviously, to face, at the time, Claudio Castagnoli. Now, this time, he's gone into it to face off against the Death Riders, but he wants to face the bastard Pac. Of course, Pac picked up the victory at the weekend just gone, beating Darby Allin. So gives Darby a chance to get his hands back on Pac and level up that score. Also, don't forget, Darby had a phenomenal showing against Will Ospreay last year, and he loves to play on his underdog status. So don't write off Darby Allin. Up next, like I say, Pac goes into the Continental Classic. This will be his first one. I think, if I remember rightly, he was injured. But he's probably been injured for the last 2, to be fair, because he's picked up a couple of injuries pretty much since joining with AEW, hasn't he? So it gives him a chance to now show us what he can do. You know, Pac against Darby's obviously going to be one to keep your eye on. It's going to be the rematch from the pay-per-view, but then, of course, like you say, you've got Pac versus Kazuchika Okada. Like, I'm interested to see that Pac versus Kyle Fletcher. You know, some great ones. And of course, with them being in the Continental Classic, it doesn't matter who's face and who's heel. So we're going to get these matches that we wouldn't normally get. Like you say, Kyle Fletcher and Pac, they've both been heels for a long time. They're going to face off in singles action. Kazuchika Okada again and Pac. You know, it's going to be a great couple of matches there. There's 3 already I'm excited for. And then we have both members of Jet Speed are going into the Gold League. So it's Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight. They are going to be facing off against each other at one point, which will be very interesting. They've been a great tag team since coming to AEW. Tony Khan put them together as a team, and it's shown. It's been brilliant. You know, they're a great team. Fans are right behind them. and they're starting to become well oiled now. But I am really intrigued to see Speedball Mike Bailey versus Kevin Knight in the Continental Classic, and then we can get the likes of Speedball versus Darby Allin. That's a match I'd like to see. Speedball versus Carl Fletcher, Kevin Knight versus Pac, Kevin Knight versus Kazuchika Okada. All these matches will happen at some point. Everyone in the Gold League will face everyone else in the Gold League, and then obviously everyone in the Blue League will face everyone else in the Blue League, which brings us to the Blue League. So let's have a look at what we have on offer in the Blue League. So we have, of course, another Don Callis family member. We have the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Konosuke Takeshita. He is in the tournament. Obviously, his title's not on the line. It's just Okada's title, with being obviously the Continental Classic. The Continental Championship will be on the line. But we have Takeshita wanting, obviously, to prove himself. He won the G1 Climax this year over in New Japan, which then led him to the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. He's got a match at Wrestle Kingdom against Yota Tsuji, and they'll be facing for both championships, which will be the IWGP World Heavyweight and, of course, the Global Championship. Could he also be the Continental Champion by that time? And be interesting to see whether he put that championship up for grabs as well. The potential to see Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita, they've been teasing this for a couple of months now, and it is definitely a match that fans, myself included, are desperate to see. Next, we have our leader of the Death Riders, Jon Moxley. He returns to the Continental Classic. Of course, he was in the very, very first and went to the final against Eddie Kingston, who obviously won and became the inaugural Continental Champion. So Jon Moxley, but he's been on a losing streak as of late. He has been tapping out left, right and centre to Kyle Fletcher. Not Kyle Fletcher, Kyle O'Reilly, who unfortunately couldn't get cleared for this tournament. He has a shoulder injury, I believe it is, so he has been replaced by Roderick Strong. Now, obviously, Roddy is great technical wrestler in his own right, and also has a victory over Moxley recently, which they faced on Collision going into the Blood and Guts match, with obviously Darby Allin helping Roderick Strong to pick up that victory. But it's got to be there in the back of his mind. Obviously he's lost a couple of times, tapped out a few times now to Kyle O'Reilly. He's also lost recently to Roderick Strong. And anytime he gets put into a submission move at the moment, he does seem to panic. We've seen him deck a referee. And of course, that important rule of everyone is banned from ringside. Should be interesting to see how that works for the leader of the Death Riders. Obviously, Jon Moxley is my favourite wrestler. If you didn't know that, then you haven't been watching these videos. But Jon Moxley is my favourite wrestler, and I'm going to say he could beat anyone in this tournament on his day. But lately, he's been on a losing streak, and of course, there is so many wrestlers that can stick you in a submission move. Roderick Strong is definitely one of them. And it's going to be interesting as we have another Death Riders member in the Blue League. It is Jon Moxley's general, Claudio Castagnoli. So at some point we are going to see Claudio face off against Jon Moxley. Now this one has my interest 100%. We've had talk of, could the Death Riders turn on Jon Moxley in the future and kick him out? Would Claudio be the one to take over? Could Pac be the one to take over? Obviously Pac could win the Gold League and Claudio or Mox could win the Blue League, and that could put them against each other in the finals. So we could get an all Death Riders final. But the fact that we'll see Jon Moxley versus Claudio Castagnoli in the singles, and do you know what I've just thought then? I don't think they faced in AEW, have they? Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to let me know in the comments, and if you do, and I am wrong and they have faced, let me know when and where so I can go and watch it, because I'm pretty sure they haven't, because not long after Claudio came in, he joined up with, obviously at the time, Blackpool Combat Club, and he's been by Mox's side from then, so I'm pretty sure they haven't faced, so I am really, really excited. And of course, don't forget, we've got that 20-minute time limit as well, and that is one that could easily go to a time limit draw. They are really, really good. the very, very similar styles. I'd probably say that Mox has got more of a ground and pound style, and Claudio has more of the strength and stamina probably as well. So it's definitely one I'm excited to watch anyway. And of course we have Masquerade. He's gone into the Continental Classic, part of the Blue League as well. He'll be facing John Moxley tonight in match 1. For the Blue League, it's going to be Mox versus Masquerade, who, of course, has had a brilliant showing for most of his AEW career so far. He had a match a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, against Kazuchika Okada. That wasn't great, but it's not what we used to see, and we are used to seeing Masquerade having really, really good matches. So I'd expect him to pull out some bangers, especially against some of these that are in here, like Takeshita versus Masquerade. We've seen them, obviously, in a trios match. It was featuring also Kazuchika Okada. Was it the Revolution pay-per-view? A triple threat match. So we've seen them in a triple threat. So it'll be interesting to see them in a one-on-one. And again, like the chance to see Masquerade versus Roderick Strong. Masquerade, obviously, against John Moxley tonight, Claudio Castagnoli. And then, of course, we have the last member of the tournament, which is the ever-lovable Orange Cassidy. A lot of people on the outside looking into AEW don't get Orange Cassidy, and that's fine, that's great, because you've never took the time to watch him. Orange Cassidy, when he had the International Championship, had one of the best championship reigns in not only AEW, but I'd say in wrestling the last decade. He had phenomenal show, and every single match was a banger. He'd literally come out every week and have match of the night, and he'd be taped up to death as well by the end of his reign. But Orange Cassidy can have banging matches with anyone. We've seen him face off against John Moxley before for the AEW World Championship. We're going to get a chance to see that again. We've seen Orange Cassidy obviously face Claudio when he was going in the feud with Mox and the Death Riders at the time. We're going to see Orange Cassidy mix it up with Takeshita. We're going to see him mix it up with Roderick Strong. They've been teaming quite a bit lately, with Kyle O'Reilly trying to get Roderick Strong on side with the conglomeration, which obviously Orange Cassidy is also a part of. So that'll be an interesting matchup. And then, of course, Orange Cassidy versus Masquerade. So they are your 12 participants, 6 on the gold, 6 on the blue. So let me know in the comment section below who do you think is going to win each of the groups. So I'm going to have a look at the matches that we have tonight, and then I'll let you know my predictions for who wins the groups and who wins the tournament. So we'll start with match number 1, and it's going to be Darby Allin versus Kevin Knight. Obviously, I don't know the order that these are going to be in. I'm just saying match 1, match 2, match 3. There's 3 matches on tonight. They haven't announced what particular order they're going to be in. What we have at night 1, Darby Allin is going against Kevin Knight, which I think is going to be a really good match. They're both can be high-flying wrestlers, like say Kevin Knight. He's had more of a tag team run at the minute with Speedball, but we have seen him on occasion be able to pull off some really good singles matches. He had a good showing in the Casino Gauntlet at the last pay-per-view. He faced off against John Moxley a couple of months ago in a really good singles match. Darby Allin's been one of the most consistently good wrestlers on the AEW roster now since day 1. So I'm really interested to see these two mix it up. Obviously, it's a chance to see 2 faces face off against each other, which you wouldn't normally see. Obviously, normally 1 heel, 1 face. So I am really interested to see this, but I'm going to say I'm backing Darby Allin to pick up the victory on match 1. So then we'll move on to the Blue League, and John Moxley is going to be taking on Masquerade. So Masquerade obviously is a lot more high-flying than technical, but it'd be interesting to see if he could pull a couple of submissions out. Maybe you get John Moxley to panic. And of course, like I say, Mox has been on a losing streak, but of course, Masquerade did just lose recently to Kazuchika Okada. But Mox isn't going to have the Death Riders in this corner. You're not allowed anyone at ringside, so you can't even have Marina Shafir in this corner. No one is allowed at all at ringside. So obviously that's got to play into Masquerade's hands a bit more than obviously Moxley's. But of course, Mox is a former 4-time AEW World Champion, former IWGP World Champion. I expect Moxley to pick up the victory and start getting himself back on track. I think we're going to see him struggle in terms of submissions against probably Roderick Strong. But other than that, there's not really not overly technical wrestlers, although to be fair, Claudio knows his weakness. So we could see Claudio maybe spring a couple of submissions on him in their match. That match is definitely one I am excited to see. But I would expect Jon Moxley to pick up the victory tonight. So that makes us go with match number 3. Now that is Kazuchika Okada, obviously the reigning and defending Continental champion, and he'll be facing former TNT champion and close friend, apparently, and the proto-star, the future of AEW, Kyle Fletcher. This is definitely one I am so excited to see. I think it's great opportunity to see these two put on an absolute spectacle. Could easily be match of the tournament. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say this match goes to a time limit draw. I'm going to say I don't think either one's going to pick up the victory. I feel like Kyle's had a great run in 2025. I can't see him going back-to-back losses. Obviously, he's just lost the TNT Championship to Mark Briscoe. And then you've got Kazuchika Okada, who has barely ever been pinned in AEW. I think he's been pinned about 4 times, maybe, in total. Would the start Kazuchika Okada off with a loss? Not too sure. I can't remember for 100%, but I'm sure. Didn't he draw in his first match last year? Was it against Daniel Garcia? He definitely drew. I think he drew in his first match. I'm sure during his first match last year. I could imagine that could be again the case here. And it would be a great finish because, you know, it gives them an opportunity to face again some point in the future. But I'm going to say a time limit draw on this. It's a 20-minute time limit. Don't forget that. 20 minutes only. So I'm going to say that ends in a time limit draw. So there you have it. That is the 3 matches that have been announced for tonight on Dynamite. That is the full 12 participants. You know, the possibility of so many banging matches. The next couple of weeks is going to be absolutely phenomenal TV, as it always is when the Continental Classic's on. Some of the greatest, if not the greatest, wrestling in-ring action of the year happens during the Continental Classic. So I am really excited and ready to get a proper tournament on the go, not a stupid one like the other company does. A proper tournament, you know, what the G1 used to be. It's not as exciting anymore, unfortunately, the G1. That's just because they've lost so many top names, although I did enjoy this year's seeing Takeshita pick up the G1 crown. So let me know, like I say, your thoughts and opinions. Let me know who you think is going to win all 3 matches that start tonight. And of course, let me know who you think is going to win each of the leagues. So for me, I think Kazuchika Okada is going to win his league. He's going to become in at top of the Gold League. Of course, he is the defending champion. Like I say, he's not really been pinned that much in AEW. And he's held the title now for a ridiculous amount of days. Can't even remember what it is. It's a long time. And then I'm going to pick our IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Konosuke Takeshita to win the Blue League, and then we'll finally get Okada versus Takeshita, and that's the match that I've been desperate to see. I've been dying to see this, and I think potentially Takeshita versus Okada could end up being match of the year, let alone just match of the pay-per-view card that it'll be on. I think it could potentially be match of the year. You know, Kazuchika Okada is the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest Japanese professional wrestler, and Konosuke Takeshita is the future of Japanese professional wrestling. So I'm going to say Okada wins the Gold League, Takeshita wins the Blue League, and then we get them face off for the title in the final. And I'll let you know if that happens who I think will win that match. So obviously let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. Of course, don't forget, please do, if you haven't already, drop us a subscribe as we try to grow the wrestling group. We want this channel to grow as big as we can get it. And obviously the more subscriptions, the better the content will be. The more content that we'll be able to put out, the bigger I'll be able to grow my team. At the minute, it's just a 2-man team, and we are looking, hopefully, if we can push the subscriptions to double in the next year, then I'll be adding a couple more people. You know, we've got me, who mainly does AEW and New Japan, occasional Defy and House of Glory and stuff like that, and then we have Matt, who works just mainly on WWE and NXT. Occasionally he does the TNA and AAA ones, but normally only if they cross with WWE. So we have the wrestling fan and we have the sport entertainment fan. so we cover all bases. So, like I say, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button now.